Do you want the inside scoop on what it's like to get a mammogram? Come with me and find out what it's like. But first, when should you start getting a mammogram? There are 7 different organizations that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as the CDC, lists guidance from as to when you should begin your screening for breast cancer and then how often you should go in to be screened after that initial screening. The guidance varies on when you should begin and how often you should get a screening mammogram. But the overall consensus is it's an individual choice that you should make as to whether or not you begin screening between the ages of 40 and 50. Then once you do begin and have your first mammogram, you should go in every 1 to 2 years following that. I just turned 40 this year, and I have a history of cancer, which for those of you that are new here and don't know me, my name is Jelena, and I was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer at 34. So since I have a history of cancer, my primary doctor wants to stay on top of my health, and hence why I'm going in for a mammogram at 40. I haven't noticed or felt any changes in my breasts, so this is purely a preventative screening. So let's go. And it's almost October, so of course there's a giant pink ribbon in the lobby. Hi, so I am back from my mammogram. My first one was in 2018. My primary care physician ordered it for me after I finished up my treatment for colorectal cancer, just to be very proactive about watching me for anything else. So now 3 years later, I am getting my next one, and they had a new machine, a 3D imaging machine, which still takes the x-rays, but it also does like splices, kind of like a CT scan machine, I believe. So when you go in, I mean, for anyone that hasn't had it, you've got like a little shelf that you stick your breast on, and it squishes it down as flat as it can get so that they can see it as well as possible. So they take the x-ray with it like that. But then there was an arm, it kind of reminded me of the radiation machine, and it kind of clicked around and took pictures. It did that 9 times on both sides, and then they lay it flat, and then they have your breast at like a 45-degree angle and squish it that way up against it, and did that same thing. So the radiologist, or the technician that was doing the imaging there, she said it was going to be about 7 to 10 days before my results came in, because there's over 300 images now that the person that's reading the images needs to go through. So it'll take a little longer, but it's a much more thorough picture taking method. So they'll be able to see a lot more than just the regular squish machine would. So did I have to do any preparations for this test? No, the only thing really that you need to do is you're not supposed to wear like deodorant or perfumes. If you do happen to forget and wear deodorant, they've got wipes there for you to get all of that out. I'm not sure the exact explanation behind that, but I know like when they are doing the 45-degree angle squish, they do like pull in the tissue from your armpit too to get those lymph nodes and stuff. So perhaps the deodorant does something, or some can do something to throw off the images. I'm not exactly sure, but that's really the only thing that you have to do. So I did a little bit of research after I recorded that bit and found out that perfume, lotions, and deodorant on your underarms and your breasts, they can leave little trace particles, and those particles could show up on the x-ray and could be mistaken for cancer. So that's why they don't want you to wear any of those during the mammogram. So they've got a nice clean slate when they're looking at those x-rays. Obviously, you have to undress from the waist up. And then they give you a short gown that's just, from the waist up-ish. And then you fasten it in the front because they've got to open it so that you can stick your breasts on the machine. And it took maybe 10 minutes in the room doing the imaging, tops. Maybe more like 5, I don't know. It's super uncomfortable getting everything squished. She said because this was the 3D machine, it would be less squishy. it was more squishy, I believe, than it was the last time. And I have small breasts, so I've always wondered like how they're even going to get something, but they managed to get enough on the thing, and when they smash it down with the plastic thing, there's enough that they can look at. Then they give you these cute little stickers that they put on your nipples just so that they've got like, they can orient themselves when they are looking at your images later.
Well, it did not take 7 to 10 days for me to get my results. I went in for my mammogram on a Monday, and later on in the week, I happened to log into my portal to check something in my medical records and saw the results were already there. It was good news. No new or suspicious masses were found, so I got the all clear. Yay! The results did note that my breast composition was rated a density C, which means that they're heterogeneously or consistently dense all over. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It just means that any masses could be harder to detect. I looked a little more into what exactly all this means. So it turns out that non-dense breast tissue, it is black or transparent in an X-ray, versus the dense breast tissue shows up as white, which is the same color that cancerous tumors show up as. 4 out of 10 women have density C breasts, and 1 out of 10 actually have extremely dense breasts. So this is a very common thing. The 3 causes of dense breast tissue are 1, you're younger, 2, you have a lower body mass index, and 3, you're taking hormone therapy for menopause. Well, check, check, and check. I'm all 3 of those, so it's no surprise that I got that result. I'm glad that I did get the 3D mammogram because those are supposed to be more helpful in evaluating dense breast tissue for cancer. The recommendation is that I come in every year for a screening, so that's what I'm going to do. And in the meantime, I'll try to be a little more diligent about doing self-breast exams every month. To hear about what it's like to get diagnosed with breast cancer, check out my interview I did up here with Erin, a stage 2 breast cancer survivor. Or to learn a little bit more about what it's like to get a bone density test and why I got one done at such an early age, check out the video I did on that right under here. Thank you so much for watching.